So lately I've been thinking a lot about the future. Well, if you know my artwork, that's certainly true. And because I'm getting older and, let's say, things excite me in a different way now than they used to, obviously a lot of the work I do is retro flavored, right? It's the sci-fi from my youth in a sense, and it's the sci-fi from when everything felt new. But is this yearning for a retro future, is it just because I'm an old fart? Don't answer. Or is it because there's something more to say about it? Welcome to Technouveau. My name is Rasmus. I'm an art director and a concept designer with 20 years of professional games development experience, and I'm on a mission to inspire and empower designers, makers, and creators design the future. Simple, right? So, thinking about this, as I mentioned, it is certainly a yearning back to the past when films and film universes felt new and felt like journeying into an undiscovered space was just the best thing in the world. And I'm certainly revisiting that feeling with the work I'm doing. Absolutely true. So in that sense, I'm answering part of my own question there. Absolutely. But I think there's a few more things going on than just that. For instance, some of the things that I really like about it is that the past is tactile and it demands interaction, and it demands spatial interaction, which means that if you are building a drama, or if you're, especially for film and games, I think, the physicality of the past and the past's future demands spatial movement of the person. Computer interfaces over here, over here, pipes over there, whatever, which means that there's a huge opportunity built into having, let's say, a spaceship bridge with complicated usability and usability issues. We'll come back to that later. And things like that nowadays, right? It's a keyboard or a screen or some sort of thing. And even though I would say that like, let's say this touchscreen interface future has been used in super original ways, Minority Report, the movie, for instance, where we have this sensation of an interface that can tell visual stories and be interactable in a really interesting way, felt super new when that came out and was super cool. And in that sense, you can certainly go away from the old retro flavors and create something new and engaging. Absolutely. But I do think that buttons, layouts, video, phone booths, things like that, in that past future where you have to move your body to do different things, simply make for a more engaging visual often. There's also tied to that, there's also the fact that a lot of this visible mechanical logic is on display, right? You can see what things do. Keyboards are used to type, screens are used to look at, cameras film you, hello, and all that, right? Where, again, back to the phone, does all the things in itself, which means it's almost like in a story, this is a cheat device. You can do 15 million things on it, which can be great depending on the story you want to tell, or it can be boring. And why didn't they just call? It's something that you hear a lot when you see films, and you will have to forcibly insert artificial resistance to certain topics in films to create that drama. Oftentimes, I know I'm not a story writer, so I don't know the details about that. But for me, it certainly seems that the past had that physicality to it. Also, in that relation is a view of relatability. Relatability in the sense that if the objects perform different tasks and you know how a keyboard works, you will also know how a keyboard works in another world or elsewhere. I mean, you can argue about Eldar eggs in Prometheus, for instance. That's another conversation. But I mean, it actually illustrates the point pretty well that you can use the interfaces to tell a story of a different culture or a different species. Whereas mind control or mind beams or whatever doesn't really say as much. It's not really an experience for the audience, right? It's like it's a little passive or cerebral maybe, where the physicality of objects simply allow us to show rather than tell and relate without words, without explanation, and without it feeling like woo-woo or anything like that. It is right there. It's one-to-one. I really like that about it. Another thing that's also related to this drama of physical interaction is repairability. You know, if your phone breaks, I have to use that as a reference for this argument here, that if your phone breaks, you don't know how it works. It's a piece of magic glass that you take down to the magic glass man at the store and he fixes it for you. You have no clue. And again, from a drama point of view, a cell phone is probably a little more interesting. You know, you can take out the battery and you can do these things, SIM cards and whatnot. I know an iPhone has a SIM card, relax. But the point I'm trying to say with that is that tearing things apart, and even better if, again, my spaceships and Star Wars and whatnot, all these retro science fiction universes has exposed parts for that reason. You know, I argue from a world building point of view that it's easy, accessible repairability. Okay, you can argue that an aircraft present day with a piece of sheet metal that you can remove and then repair is not exposed but still accessible. Okay, I buy that. But the point remains the same, that exposed and mechanical functionality is accessible by the human body, therefore allowing you to make visual storytelling and make it feel much more exciting than tapping on a console or entering the cloud via your mind brain uplink, whatever, and going And again, probably shooting myself in the foot there because I know Neuromancer and whatnot, Matrix and all these things, where you are in the mind space of this digital interface. Oh, hey, shoot me a comment in the comments if you think I'm stupid right now, but I like discussing this, so let's go with it anyway. And then, of course, the last thing, weathering, right? And again, certainly going for that certainly goes for externals, because you know, I like my designs grimy. It also goes for real world spaceships, by the way. They get quite grimy upon re-entry, and even things like 2001's what's it called, Discovery 1, is that the ship in its orbit between Jupiter and Io that gets all grimy from radioactive volcano dust from Io. Very cool. And of course, having objects that can be dusty, having objects that aren't just a screen or an uplink interface or whatever, but dials, buttons, valves, pistons, all that stuff, allows us to tell much more interesting stories, I think. And again, I say again all the time, don't I? Anyway, Sid Mead, you know, one of the greats of the next point, you know, talked a lot about retrofitting for Blade Runner especially, where he said that street level is kind of like the basement for the wealthy upstairs, right up in the skyscrapers. Beneath the Steel Sky on the Amiga did it as well. Lots of properties have done this, and of course it's a classic, and it's such a vivid image that says to the viewer what you want to say, and it is also such a wonderful place to visit, because again, the visualization of the themes that you're working with is really doable in a physical world. But the point I'm trying to make here is layers of time. When things are physical, you can really tell what time period they're from, right? And of course, we see Fantastic Four is just out. I haven't seen it yet. You see Alien Romulus that has the CRT future, right, from Alien, where Prometheus went flat screen because it was a proto or a meta prequel. Anyway, that's another discussion for another day. But we have a lot of properties right now, Star Wars as well, of course, that utilize a retro aesthetic in terms of interfaces and whatnot, and bringing you back into a relatable space and a tangible physical space in terms of interaction and whatnot. And just like in the real world, this allows us to reflect on culture, religion, economy, regimes, lots of different factors that can be visualized like this. And back to Sid Mead and Blade Runner, for instance, right? When you have that layering, where Ridley was fascinated with old New York and 30s Art Deco skyscraper architecture, speaking of, I suppose, just before the crash, speaking of grand ambition and heightened economical opportunity and whatnot, and then the slump, and then of course in Blade Runner, where all the humans have left to better worlds or orbit or wherever, you are left with this wonderful decaying temple of the past that is no longer relevant or powerful or has the grandiosity that it used to. So it leaves us with a wonderful physical space where we can really explore these layers of time, and physicality certainly does that. Of course, again, you can argue that having all this doesn't prevent you from having uplinks and cloud, and you wink into the cloud and then you do the thing, or mind uplinks or whatever. Certainly, but I would still argue that the physicality of buttons and handles and dials and whatnot makes for more interesting storytelling opportunity. So there you have it. The old future rocks. The new future, medium. Apropos buttons, if you want to see me play around with buttons to make a vehicle cockpit that has all the tropes of Jeff Darrow cartoons, for instance, or comic books. Where is it? I can't find it right now. Hardboiled and all that stuff. Check out this video. And until next time.